This is a recording made on March 4th, 1981, in Leningrad. Psychotechnical Institute, Fontanka Street, Sublevel 2. Soundproof isolation booth. One subject, one microphone, one reel-to-reel tape deck. The tape is 47 minutes long, and it contains only answers.
Yes, I understand. No, I haven't told anyone, because you asked me not to.
No questions were recorded, no interviewer, just a man responding to silence. According to the declassified file, 19 people listened to this tape in full between 1981 and 1984. 14 requested immediate psychiatric evaluation. 3 vanished from their posts. 2 died within the year. 1 jumped from his apartment window, the other in a car crash the investigator described as geometrically impossible. The tape was sealed by the KGB's 3rd Directorate and marked Object 07 Do Not Duplicate. It should have been destroyed. It wasn't. Let me tell you what the official record says this was. Then I'll show you what the tape actually contains. The cover document is dated March 1981, signed by Dr. Yevgeny Korsakov, Director of Experimental Psychology. It describes a routine test of auditory response under sensory isolation. The subject, identified only as Patient K, was a volunteer from Leningrad State University. Male, 24 years old, psychology student. The experiment was simple. Patient K sits in the booth. Headphones on. Microphone active. The researcher asks questions from an adjacent room via intercom. Patient K responds. Standard cognitive baseline assessment. Except the intercom was never turned on. The researcher's microphone was disconnected, confirmed by 3 separate technicians who examined the equipment after the session. No audio input, no questions transmitted. And yet, Patient K answered 127 questions over 47 minutes.
I'm from Leningrad, yes. Born here. 1956.
Pause. 8 seconds.
My father worked at the Kirov plant. He died in 72.
Pause. 5 seconds. No, I never met him. I mean, I did, but not after. The pauses are perfect. Exactly the length a human interviewer would need to ask a follow-up question. Breath rhythm, syntax gaps, the natural tempo of conversation. But there's no one speaking. Dr. Korsakov's notes from that day are cautious. He writes, "Subject appeared responsive to external stimuli not present in observable environment. Recommend follow-up session with neurological scan." That second session never happened. 3 days later, Dr. Korsakov submitted a resignation letter. He left the institute, left Leningrad, and according to his file, moved to a village near Pskov, where he worked as a rural schoolteacher until his death in 1996. He never published another paper, never spoke about his research again. I should mention, his resignation letter is 2 lines long, typed on a different typewriter than the one in his office. It reads, "I can no longer continue this work. Please do not contact me." Someone else wrote that letter. The tape was archived, but not forgotten. In 1982, a linguistics team at Moscow State University requested access to Object 07. They were studying non-reciprocal dialogue structures, essentially one-sided conversations. They received a duplicate reel, not the original, a copy. The team lead was Dr. Irina Volkova, a specialist in psycholinguistics. She listened to the tape once, then she played it for her research assistant, Alexei Grankin. Grankin's notes from that session still exist. They're in the file, written in blue ink, increasingly erratic handwriting. He writes, "The subject answers questions we cannot hear. But if you listen carefully, if you focus on the silence between his words, you can almost feel the shape of the question. Like listening to one side of a phone call, you start to fill in the gaps."
Dr. Volkova asked me to transcribe the responses. I got to minute 22. Then I had to stop, because I realized I was writing down the questions too. I don't know how. They weren't on the tape, but I knew what they were.
Grankin's transcription is in the file. I'm looking at it now.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Grankin's handwritten note. Question was, "Can you hear me?"
No, this is the first time.
Note, have you experienced this before?
I don't think so. It feels like I should know you, but I don't.
Note, do you recognize my voice? Here's what makes this disturbing. Grankin was right. When you read the responses in sequence, the questions become obvious, inevitable. You don't hear them, you reconstruct them. But Grankin added something else in the margin of page 4, in pencil, very small.
The questions are not Russian. I don't know what language they are, but I understand them anyway.
Dr. Volkova submitted her findings in November 1982. The report was 17 pages long. Dense linguistic analysis, frequency charts, phonetic breakdowns. It was stamped "reviewed" by someone in the Ministry of Health, filed in a gray folder, and never mentioned again. Volkova was reassigned to Novosibirsk State University 2 weeks later. She taught introductory phonetics to undergraduates. She published nothing, attended no conferences. Her colleagues described her as quiet, distant, perpetually tired. She died in 1991 of heart failure. She was 41 years old. The autopsy report notes signs of chronic stress, severe sleep deprivation, possible prolonged anxiety disorder. The attending physician wrote in the margins, "Patient appeared to have not slept properly in years." But before Volkova left Moscow in 1982, she did something unauthorized. She made a third-generation copy of the tape, not through official channels. She used her own equipment, a reel-to-reel recorder in her apartment. And she sent it to a colleague in Kiev, a neurologist named Dr. Boris Klimov. There's no record of the package in any postal log, but Klimov's response letter exists. It's dated December 12, 1982, handwritten, 3 pages.
Irina, I've received your package. I cannot explain what I heard. I need to study this properly. This is beyond linguistics. This is neurological.
Klimov had access to early EEG equipment. Soviet-era machines, bulky, unreliable, but functional. He wanted to measure brain activity while subjects listened to Object 07, to see if the phantom questions were purely psychological or if something else was happening. He recruited 6 volunteers, medical students from Kiev Polytechnic, ages 22 to 26, standard informed consent. Each signed a release form. Each was paid 15 rubles. The first test was conducted on December 20th, 1982. Subject 1, male, 24, neurology student named Dmitry Volkov. Volkov sat in a quiet room. Headphones on, EEG electrodes attached to his scalp. The tape began playing. For the first 11 minutes, his brainwave patterns were normal. Standard auditory processing, attention, comprehension. Then, at minute 12, something changed. Klimoff's notes describe it. Subject's alpha waves spiked sharply during a pause in the recording. Duration, 4.2 seconds. The spike occurred in the absence of audible stimuli. When questioned, subject reported hearing a question clearly, as if someone were in the room. Klimoff asked Volkov what the question was. Volkov's response is written in the margin of the report.
She asked if I was afraid.
She, not he, not the male voice on the tape. Klimoff ran the test again with subject 2. Female, 23, psychology student, same result. Minute 12, spike during silence. When asked what she heard, she said,
"A man's voice asking if I understood what was happening."
Different question, different voice, same timestamp. By the 6th test, the pattern was undeniable. All 6 subjects exhibited the same anomaly. At minute 12 of the recording, their EEG patterns synchronized, not with each other, but with the pauses on the tape. Their brains were processing speech, real, structured, linguistic input. But the speech wasn't there.
The pauses contain information, not sound, not language in the traditional sense, but something the brain interprets as language.
He tried isolating the silence. He recorded just the pauses, cutting out patient K's responses entirely. He played this silence tape to a new group. Same result, same synchronization. The questions existed independently of the answers. Then Klimoff did something unusual. He played the original tape backwards. Every word reversed, every pause inverted. The EEG spikes still occurred at the same timestamps. Minute 12, minute 19, minute 31. The direction didn't matter. The playback speed didn't matter. The timestamps themselves were significant. Klimoff tested this further. He played the tape on 2 devices simultaneously, starting them 3 seconds apart. Both groups of listeners synchronized at minute 12, not 12 minutes from when they personally started listening, but 12 minutes from the beginning of the original 1981 recording. As if the tape wasn't playing a recording, as if it was playing a moment in time, a specific moment. March 4th, 1981, 14:12 local time. And that moment was still happening. Klimoff writes, "The questions exist independently of the tape. The tape is not a recording of an event. It is a window. The conversation patient K had in 1981 is not in the past. It is occurring simultaneously across all playback instances." He continues, "Every time we play the tape, we are not listening to a recording. We are listening to March 4th, 1981. And someone on the other side is listening back." His final experiment was the one that ended everything. On January 9th, 1983, Klimoff attempted to record the questions directly. He set up a second microphone in the test room, positioned to capture any sound the EEG subjects were reacting to. He played the tape. The subject's brain activity spiked at minute 12. Klimoff checked the second microphone. It had recorded something. Not a voice, not words, a frequency, a low hum. 783 hertz, barely perceptible, but consistent, rhythmic. It matched the Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic frequency of Earth's atmosphere. Klimov's notes from that day are written in red ink. His handwriting is shaky. The questions are not spoken, they are transmitted through the electromagnetic field itself. Patient K was not responding to an interrogator in the room. He was responding to something using the room as a receiver. He adds one final line. If this is true, then the tape is irrelevant. The conversation is everywhere. We've simply found one place where it was recorded. 2 weeks later, Klimov's lab was visited by two men in civilian clothes. They identified themselves as representatives from the Ministry of Health. No credentials, no paperwork. They confiscated all of Klimov's research. Every note, every EEG printout, every copy of the tape. Klimov was instructed to cease all experimentation immediately. He complied. On February 14, 1983, he was found dead in his apartment. Carbon monoxide poisoning. The official cause was a faulty heater. The heater had been installed 2 days earlier, brand new, German-made. No defects found in the post-mortem inspection. The installation receipt shows it was ordered by Klimov himself, but Klimov's bank records show no payment. And the company that allegedly installed it, Kiev Technical Services, has no record of existing. In 1983, the tape resurfaced again, this time in the classified archives of the KGB's Third Directorate. Signals Intelligence, Audio Forensics, the department responsible for analyzing intercepted communications from the West. The analyst assigned to Object 07 was a man named Viktor Osipov, 42 years old, 20 years of service, specialist in voice analysis and frequency deconstruction. He'd spent his career listening to NATO transmissions, identifying speakers, detecting forgeries. He was methodical, precise, not prone to speculation. His assignment was simple. Determine if Object 07 posed a security risk, specifically, whether it could be a foreign intelligence operation, some kind of psychological weapon or subliminal transmission. Osipov approached it like any other intercept. He began with the assumption that the tape was ordinary, that the phantom questions were either a hoax, a psychological artifact, or the result of equipment malfunction. He was wrong on all counts. Osipov's first test was straightforward. He ran the tape through a spectrum analyzer, a device that breaks audio into its component frequencies. If there were hidden sounds, subsonic, ultrasonic, anything outside normal hearing range, the analyzer would detect them. The results were clean, no hidden signals, no embedded messages, just the voice of patient K, ambient room noise, and tape hiss. But Osipov noticed something unusual in the background noise. The hiss wasn't uniform. It had structure. Tiny fluctuations. Peaks and valleys in the frequency spectrum that didn't match standard magnetic tape degradation. He isolated the hiss, removed patient K's voice entirely, amplified the background. And he found voices. Not full sentences, not coherent speech, fragments, phonemes, pieces of words scattered across the entire frequency range like broken glass. A timestamp 04:14-22, buried in the 40 Hz range. Below the threshold of normal hearing, there was a spike. When isolated and pitch shifted into audible range, it resolved into a single phrase.
Who are you speaking to?
Female voice, clear Russian, native speaker, not patient K, not anyone else documented in the original session. Osipov ran the same analysis across the entire 47-minute recording. He found 19 distinct fragments. Timestamp 00:19:47. Male voice. Different from patient K. Frequency 18 Hz.
Where is this conversation taking place?
Timestamp 0:11. Same female voice as before. Frequency 52 Hz.
Are you aware that you're being recorded?
Timestamp 00:31:05. A third voice. Older male. Frequency 9 Hz.
How long have you been here?
Each fragment was clear, perfectly articulated, but completely inaudible during normal playback. Osipov compiled all 19 fragments. He arranged them by timestamp, and when read in sequence, they formed something coherent. An interrogation. But not of patient K. The questions weren't asking about him. They were asking about the space, the recording, the act of observation itself.
Who authorized this session? What is the purpose of this facility? Are you aware of the other respondents?
Other respondents, plural. Osipov's report, dated March 1983, includes a statement I need to read exactly as he wrote it. Object 07 is not a recording of patient K responding to inaudible questions. It is a recording of inaudible questions responding to patient K. The tape has captured both sides of two separate conversations occurring in the same physical space, but only one conversation is audible at normal playback frequencies. He continues. The questions are not directed at patient K. They are directed at the recording device itself, or at whoever is listening. Osipov tested this hypothesis. He recorded himself playing the tape. Then he analyzed the new recording, the recording of the recording. New fragments appeared. Different voices, different questions.
Are you the original listener? What year is this playback occurring?
The questions were adapting, responding to the context of playback. Osipov's conclusion, written in his own hand, underlined twice, reads, I believe patient K was not the subject of the experiment. He was the interference, the noise. The tape was never meant to record him. It was meant to record something else, and patient K's voice is simply in the way. He submitted a request for further analysis, access to the original master reel, permission to conduct controlled playback tests with additional monitoring equipment. His request was denied within 6 hours. He was transferred to a signals monitoring station in Kamchatka. Remote listening post. No research facilities, just radio intercepts and weather reports. He lasted 4 months. On July 18, 1983, Osipov walked into the Bering Sea. His uniform was found on the shore, folded neatly, his identification papers placed on top. His body was never recovered. The official report states suicide, mental breakdown attributed to isolation and work-related stress. But there's a note in his personnel file, added 3 days after his disappearance. Author unknown. It reads, subject reported auditory hallucinations in final week. Claimed he could hear questions during silence. Believed the tape had followed him. Psychological evaluation recommended, but not completed. Osipov had been in Kamchatka for 4 months. He had no access to Object 07, no playback equipment. But he heard the questions anyway. The original tape, the master reel recorded on March 4th, 1981, was moved multiple times, from Leningrad to Moscow in 1982, from Moscow to a restricted military archive in 1983, then, in May 1984, to Chelyabinsk 40. Chelyabinsk 40 was a closed city. It didn't appear on civilian maps. No public records, no official acknowledgement of its existence. It was built around a plutonium production facility. Anyone who worked there lived there. No one left without clearance. The transfer log from May 1984 is in this file. It's brief, clinical, but there's one detail that changes everything. The log lists 2 items transferred to Chelyabinsk. 07A, master recording, patient K responses. 07B, master recording, redacted responses. Side A and Side B. 2 tapes, same session, same date, same equipment, but different subjects. I don't have Side B. It's not in this file. It's not in any file I've been able to access, but I have a document that describes it. A transcription log, 4 pages, typed on a manual typewriter. Author, Lyudmila Sokolova. Technician, 3rd Directorate. Stationed at Chelyabinsk 40 from 1983 to 1984. Her report is dated June 3rd, 1984.
I have been assigned to catalog object 07 Side B. The tape is stored in Vault 19, sub-level 4. Playback authorized under supervision only. No duplication permitted. Reel-to-reel master, 7.5 IPS, recorded March 4th, 1981, 14:12 to 15:01 local time. Same session as Side A, same booth, same microphone placement.
Then she writes, Side B contains no audible speech. Duration, 47 minutes. The recording consists entirely of silence and ambient room noise, but the silence is not uniform. She continues, using waveform analysis, I have identified 127 distinct pauses. Each pause varies in length from 2.3 seconds to 11.8 seconds. The pauses correspond exactly, in duration and rhythm, to the pauses between patient K's responses on Side A. She's describing the inverse. Side A has answers. Side B has the space where questions should be. But Sokolova noticed something else. She writes, when I measure the pauses, I detect micro-variations in air pressure within the booth, subtle fluctuations, as if someone were speaking but producing no sound. The pressure changes match the cadence of human speech. Breath intake, exhalation, vocal effort without vocalization. Someone was in the booth, speaking, but their voice didn't register on the tape. Sokolova ran a test. She played Side A and Side B simultaneously, 1 tape in each ear of a pair of headphones.
When synchronized, the 2 recordings form a complete conversation. Side A provides patient K's answers. Side B provides the pauses, the temporal space where questions exist, but the questions themselves remain inaudible. What I hear is not a dialogue. It is the shape of a dialogue, the skeleton.
Then she writes something that was later crossed out in red ink. Heavily, multiple lines. But the words are still visible beneath the marks.
At minute 31, I heard something, not on the tape, in the room. A voice, female, Russian. She said, "Are you recording this?" I stopped playback immediately.
I was alone. The door was locked. I checked the tapes. No anomaly, no additional audio, but I heard it clearly. Sokolova submitted her report on June 3, 1984. On June 8th, she requested a transfer. Denied. On June 15th, she filed a formal complaint. Psychiatric distress, sleep disruption, auditory hallucinations. On June 22nd, her supervisor noted in her file, claims she can hear the other side of the recording, even when not in the playback room. Recommend psychological evaluation. The evaluation never happened. On December 9, 1984, Lyudmila Sokolova vanished. No resignation, no discharge paperwork, no exit log from Chelyabinsk 40. Her apartment was cleared out, belongings removed, personal effects incinerated per protocol. Her employee file ends abruptly on December 8th. No final entry, no explanation. Just a stamp. Personnel. Record sealed. Classified access only. And a handwritten note in the margin. Author unidentified. Subject last seen entering Vault 19, Sublevel 4, 21.47 local time. Did not exit. Security footage reviewed. No anomalies detected. Subject not found within vault. Search concluded. Case closed. She went into the room where Side B was stored, and she didn't come out. The vault was sealed after that. According to archive logs, it was opened once more in 1991, during the Soviet collapse, when restricted materials were being cataloged for potential declassification. The tape was gone. No removal log, no transfer order, just an empty shelf where Object 07 Side B should have been. But there's a note from the archivist who opened the vault. His name was Gennady Morozov. He writes, Vault 19 was sealed in 1984. Lock intact. No signs of entry. But the tape is missing. In its place, a handwritten note on archive paper. The handwriting matches no personnel on record. The note read, Conversation complete. Playback no longer necessary. The last person to officially handle Object 07 Side A was Gennady Morozov himself. He worked in the Central Archive in Moscow from 1986 until the dissolution of the KGB in 1991. In October 1991, Morozov received orders to destroy classified materials deemed non-essential during the institutional collapse. Among the items on the destruction list, Object 07, Side A. Side B was already missing, but Side A, the original master reel with Patient K's responses, was still in the archive. Vault 12, locked, cataloged. Morozov's job was simple. Retrieve the tape, incinerate it, file the destruction certificate. He did exactly that. On October 14, 1991, at 16:30, Morozov personally removed the tape from Vault 12. He signed it out. He carried it to the incinerator in the basement. He placed it inside. He watched it burn. The destruction certificate is in this file. Signed by Morozov. Witnessed by a security officer named Alexei Kirov. Dated October 14, 1991. The tape was destroyed. Except 2 weeks later, Morozov found it on his desk. Not a copy. The original. Same reel. Same case. Same archive label. OZ7A, 1981. Classified. In a letter written to a journalist in St. Petersburg, dated December 3, 1991, never published, Morozov describes what happened.
I thought I'd made a mistake. Perhaps I'd burned the wrong tape. But I checked the logs. I checked the destruction certificate. The serial number matched. I had burned the correct tape. I reported this to my supervisor. He told me to destroy it again. I did. Same procedure. Same incinerator. I watched it burn completely. Plastic melted. Magnetic tape disintegrated. Nothing remained. 3 days later, it was back. Same place. My desk. Undamaged.
Morozov destroyed the tape 4 times over the course of November 1991. Each time, it reappeared.
I locked the tape in a safe in my office. I told no one. I stopped trying to destroy it. I decided to simply wait, to see what would happen.
What happened was nothing. The tape remained in the safe. Morozov retired in 1995. He left Moscow, moved to a small apartment in Tver. But before he left, he wrote one final addendum to his letter.
On my last day, I opened the safe. The tape was gone. In its place, a new reel, unlabeled. I played it. It was 47 minutes of silence. But at minute 31, I heard breathing. Then a voice. Male. Russian. He said, "Thank you for keeping this safe. We'll take it from here."
Morozov died in 1998. Heart attack. He was 53 years old. The safe in his old office was opened during an archive reorganization in 2003. It was empty, completely empty, no dust, no residue, as if it had been cleaned. But on the inside of the door, someone had scratched a message. Cyrillic letters. Crude, deep. Razgovor продолжается. The conversation continues. I'm holding a document dated March 15th, 1981. 11 days after the original recording. It's a medical report. Patient K, whose real name is never given, was admitted to a psychiatric facility in Leningrad. Diagnosis: dissociative episodes, auditory processing anomaly. The intake notes describe his condition. Patient claims he can still hear the questions. States they continue even after the recording session ended. Reports that the questions are becoming more specific, more personal. He believes someone is trying to reach him through the silence. The final entry in his file is dated April 2nd, 1981. Patient discharged at own request. Signed release form. Stated he needed to go back and finish the conversation. Patient departed facility at 14:30. Destination unknown. There's no record of him after that. No death certificate. No forwarding address. No follow-up. Just a handwritten note clipped to the file, author unknown. Patient K returned to the Institute on April 3rd. He asked to use the booth again, alone. Permission denied. He was removed from the premises by security. He said, and I quote, "They're still asking. I have to answer. If I don't, someone else will." I want to show you one last thing. This is a transfer receipt from the Leningrad Institute archives, dated April the 4th, 1981. It lists 2 items sent to Moscow for analysis. Recording. Patient K responses. Side A. Recording. The other side. Side B. Side B is labeled with a timestamp. April 3rd, 1981, 22:17. That's the day after patient K was turned away from the Institute. Someone made a second recording in the same booth at night, and according to the receipt, side B contains 47 minutes of audio. But the booth was empty. There's one more note, written in the margin in pencil. Side B contains answers, but this time we can hear the questions. I don't have that tape, but I know what it means. Patient K went back, and he finished the conversation. The file ends there. No follow-up, no investigation, no closure. Just a stamp on the final page. Case resolved. File sealed. Do not reopen. And underneath, in handwriting I don't recognize, both sides archived. Conversation ongoing. This is Object 07, a man answering questions no one asked. Or maybe he was answering the only questions that mattered. The ones we're not supposed to hear. The file is closed. But if Victor Osipov was right, if the tape is playing both sides of two separate conversations, then someone, somewhere, is still listening. And they're still asking, and somewhere in the silence between words, someone is still answering. I don't know who Patient K was, I don't know what he heard, but I know this. Every copy of this tape that was ever made, every duplicate, every transfer, every backup, has disappeared or been destroyed. Except one. The copy I'm holding was declassified in 1998. Misfiled, forgotten, it shouldn't exist. And the timestamp on the digitization log, the date this recording was converted to a computer file, is March 4th, 2024. 43 years to the day after the original session. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think someone is still curating this archive, and I think they wanted this found. The file is in front of me, the tape is gone, but the conversation isn't over. Because if you've listened this far, you've heard the answers. And now you're starting to hear the questions too. Aren't you?